All right, what's up, SML? Welcome to Stone Searching. First time in a long time, and today we've got a little hybrid episode. It's heat check just with Stone Searching. Bomber unavailable due to some family stuff, and then we missed basically the whole first round. So we're improvising a little bit. We've got good little Thanos Club cast here. Me, Clink, Q, Finns. What's going on, guys?
What's up?
Not much, man. Just chilling.
Glad to be here.
Oh yeah, and Q is currently in the car, so we've got the old Dan Hertzler wind tunnel in the background, just to make it a little bit like old times in the SML network here. So obviously we are pretty much a majority through round one. Last game coming up tonight at, I believe it's 9 p.m. With the Vikings and the Cardinals, the Brother Bowl. Quick recap on the first round here, starting in the AFC. The 2-7, little upset. I don't know how much of an upset you can call it. The reigning Super Bowl champ Matt beats Bomber second straight year, 2013 on a game-sealing pick six. Super exciting game. If you want to go back and watch that, if you missed it, well worth it for sure. QB and the resurgent Field General 007. QB wins that one 35-14, and then the usual staple matchup between Beans and Prime went exactly the way that all the other ones have gone. 45-21 for Prime. That was actually a very close game until Joe Mixon pretty much sold everything with a drop and then just missed the ball for a pick. It all unraveled from there. NFC side, Paulie with just a shocking turnaround that nobody saw coming after last season. He sneaks into the playoffs at the 7 seed, loses to Doink 28-7. And then Grams makes a return to the SML playoffs and probably wishes he didn't. 45-10 loss to Monty. Grams actually had half as many fumbles as he had points in that game. So that was a tough go, but it was nice to see the old Dallas Cowboys back in the SML playoffs. But now, obviously, one more game left in the first round, and that's where we're going to start our show today. We've got the Vikings, we've got the Cardinals, and before we get into any picks, Q, I'm just going to ask you, how you feeling about tonight?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. Obviously, everybody knows that Gutta is one of the better defensive, players in the SML. Obviously, playing a tough defensive user can create turnovers, ugly games, upsets, of course. So I just got to play my game. I can't get too aggressive or in the terms that we use in the Thanos Club, play with our food with somebody that I do feel is less superior than me when it does come to talent on the field. So I feel good. If I play my game, I think I'll win.
And, of course, poor Gouda at work can't get on the show to defend himself. So, that's all we're going to get on that one. Me and Clink are covering the NFC. Clink, what do you think about this game tonight?
I think it's going to be tough for Gutta. Obviously, these two are brothers, so they know each other very well. They know their game styles well. I think the firepower on Q's side is just too strong. He seemed to have figured out how to throw the ball pretty much at will. I mean, he had 198 passing yards per game, 4 passing touchdowns on average per game, and can run the ball extremely well too, also putting up 188 yards on average. I mean, the guy is just very talented offensively, which it's going to be interesting to see the two strengths play against each other. But I got Q coming out on top of this one, not handedly, but probably by 2 scores.
Yeah, I think we got this playoff matchup last season as well, and Gutta was very close to pulling off the upset. He played a great game. I think Q was a little too worried there. I think he was, again, the old playing with his food, trying to keep things entertaining, playing his brother there. I think he's, tonight, not going to play any games, not going to mess around. I think he's going to come out laser-focused. Gutta has been fantastic this season. Probably the best I've seen him play since he's been in the SML. He's doing it all with Malik Willis, who, I personally thought was one of the worst trades I've ever seen. But honestly, he's making it work. He did throw 29 picks, but 3,200 yards, 22 touchdowns with a guy that I didn't think was ever going to play in the SML again. Also threw in 126 yards on the ground with 3 touchdowns. So really had a great season. Again, underrated user. But I think tonight we're going to see a much more dialed in QP, and I think he does get that W. would have to agree with you, Clink. I think it's by at least 2 scores. Hopefully we can see some Gutta playoff matchups that aren't against his brother. That would be certainly nice to see. So in the AFC, we got Q and Finns covering over there. We're in the second round, assuming Q moves on after tonight. So that's where we're going to be starting the divisional round. That will be me versus Matt in the 1 versus 7, and then really intriguing matchup, Prime versus QB. So you guys take it away. What do you think about the AFC?
Yeah, I think for the Faz versus Matt game, that's going to be one of the more interesting games of the this division, or this divisional round, right? So yep. I'd say Matt is probably the toughest 7 seed we can possibly have in the SML. It doesn't get much harder than that, especially when you incorporate the team that he has. Obviously, they have those edge rushers that have killed everybody that they've played, and they can literally take over a game. As we all know, EA does sometimes decide when the pass rush is going to be just absolutely dominant, or if it's going to be balanced and you can, get some pass blocking in mixed with some pressure where it feels like a pretty balanced or fair game. That being said, Trevor Lawrence is the reigning MVP. The Jaguars are just on another level right now as far as playing in this regular season, how they were playing. Their offense is clicking. They got a dual back system that is really going well, working well. And then they have weapons all over the field. You got Chase Claypool. He hurdles, one guy every 2 games. Ingram hurdles 1 guy every 2 games. And then you got that fast guy. I forgot his name, Jansen.
Yeah, Jackson Jansen.
And he's played, 14 games, 15 games this year. And he's top 3 or top 4 in receiving yards and touchdowns. So after I say all that about Matt and the greatness of Matt and his reigning Super Bowl champs, I think it does come to an end here. I think we see Faz come out maybe slow, but I think he finds his rhythm, and we see a 24-13 victory.
I got the similar result here. I'm going to say it's a little bit more lopsided, but first and foremost, I'm going to say, I do respect Matt. It doesn't get said enough. That also being said, I do respect Faz more. Faz is missing Chase Claypool for this game, actually.
I'm not actually. He'll be back. He'll be back.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, so, I realized that when you were talking about Duck Kings before, I realized that the bye week is the last week of his injury, so he should be back.
Hallelujah. Praise be. You're missing Oluokon as well, but I don't think that's going to matter too much. I think the difference in this game, I think if because Matt's been under the weather and he, I know he doesn't practice a lot, but I think his time kind of away is probably going to affect him a little bit more. So I'm going to say this is going to be a 31-10 final with you coming out on top. I had Matt kept Eckler, I think that would have been a big difference maker. I know he had to get rid of Eckler, and he's always been a good runner, but I think Eckler was just so pivotal in his passing game that and Spiller isn't as effective in that. So I think that's going to be the big difference there, and I see you coming out on top pretty handily.
You guys are very confident in my defense, which I'm excited to hear, but slightly hesitant with a guy who's really had my number in his historic performances here.
It's for me. It's not so much I'm confident in your defense. I'm less confident in Matt's offense.
That's fair.
Matt's defense is very good, one of the best in the SML. But his offense is probably middle tier, whereas your defense, I would say, is upper middle tier, probably to low, or maybe top 5, probably. Like you have a really good user when you're on too. It just like Q said, like his personnel is just so strong. He's got the acrobat. He's got those 2 edge rushers.
Yeah, it's
just they're beastly. So plus you got the 2 that you got Derwin James. It's nuts, right? So yeah, it's more of his offense that concerns me.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. So then you guys got Prime and QB in the other matchup here. How are we feeling about that one?
Yeah, this one is going to be a good game, I think. I think QB might have hit something on the head. It's either going to be very, very close, or it's going to be a blowout in Prime's direction. The thing about Prime is playoff Prime is a little bit different than the regular season Prime. He runs the ball a little bit better. He always takes care of the ball, even in the regular season, but his defense seems to lock in a little bit more come the playoffs. And QB is somebody that kind of, as Faz has pointed out, I didn't see it as often, but I did see it when he struggles. It can snowball. It can snowball and really spiral out of control. So all it takes is 1 or 2 turnovers that he didn't want to commit or that was crucial, and it could spiral out of control for QB. I do see Prime coming away with this one probably 31-20 or so. And I think that his defense is locked in, and we're probably going to be seeing a Fazer's Prime matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the same result, but I'm going to pick it in a closer game. Prime, I don't know if you guys saw in chat, Prime is talking about how he's going to come out in a cover 0 right away to get under QB's skin. QB, of course, said, everyone does that, so it's not a big deal. But I think that's going to be the key to this game. I think because Prime is, the showman in the SML, and I think he really kind of he's always going to play a sim game, but I think he's going to needle him as much as he can. Like, he knows the things that QB gets annoyed with, and I think he's going to kind of needle at that and, try to throw him off his game mentally, because we all know that QB does tilt hard when he is frustrated with the game. So I think that's going to be the difference. I think QB stays in this game, but I think it's going to be a 28-24 because playoff Prime does obviously take it to the next level, but he is prone to, kind of, to use the euphemism we did last time, he does tend to play with his food a little bit sometimes. And he does kind of, either throw a bad pass here and there and allows his opponents to kind of hang in there, unless your name's Bean. So I think because QB's a good enough player when he's on, but I just think that Prime's going to, needle him a little bit, and that's going to be the difference in this game.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that game is going to come down to Prime always plays close playoff games. That's just like what kind of he does, unless it's Beans, but that's because he's played him like 14 times in the playoffs at this point. It does seem like, this is one thing where like one play doesn't go QB's way and then it potentially gets ugly. So that'll be fun. It would bring us, if you guys are correct, to a me and Prime AFC Championship game, which would be a blast. We'll get to that in a sec. Before then, we're going to cover this NFC divisional round. And let's Clink, we'll start with Dan and Q, assuming that the panel is correct and Q wins tonight. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, these two are divisional rivals. They know each other all too well. It's tough to pick against Q, to be honest with you. Dan obviously is a very good player, a very talented player, especially when it comes to playoffs. He knows how to control the clock. He knows how to not make mistakes. But I think Q's high-power offense is going to be able to take him through that one again. And not really an upset, but a 5-over-1 seed there. I do think he's going to come in ready for that one. Dan will come in ready, but I think the offensive firepower, something that Dan typically doesn't have, is going to be the difference there. And I do think Q comes out.
Yeah, this is, a premier matchup. It's kind of a bummer that we're going to get sort of a repeat of Dan and I's NFC from last cycle, where this game is coming around too early. This really should be the NFC Championship game. It's a bummer to see it in the divisional round here. It's tough to pick. It really is, Q. I'm sorry, because it's I don't think it's just like a slam you win. Dan just negates heavy offensive styles so well in the playoffs, and then he plays that just boring slogfest football that wins playoff games, and he does it well. He does it near perfectly, takes care of the ball. I think, though, that he did finally get his first win against you this cycle, and I don't think he gets a second one. I do have to stick with Q here, because Q can slow the game down and run really well as well. Josh Jacobs has been a great asset for him. He can scramble around with Kyler when he needs to in a big spot. And it's those things that, if needed, Q can slow the game down, take a couple possessions away from Dan, and Dan just can't score fast enough on offense. If Q can come out, get a big touchdown, and a stop, it feels like it's pretty much over, because then Q can kind of dictate how he's going to play the rest of the way. So I do think Q gets this one. It's going to be close. I'll be shocked if it's more than, a one-score game. Dan always finds a way to make it close, but I am taking Q as well on that. So the next matchup in the NFC, I think, is maybe potentially even more intriguing. The Primer Posse. We get Doink, the 2 seed, playing against Monty, the 3 seed. Clink, I know we feel a little differently on this. What do you think?
We do. We talked about this a little before getting on here. So it's tough to pick. I obviously play Monty twice a year. I know his style at this point, and I know his style on defense, which does not match up well against Doink. And so I do think that Doink is going to come away with the win here. His numbers, I'm looking at his overall numbers for the year. Nothing jumps off the page as spectacular. He puts up good points, doesn't let up a whole lot of points. But he didn't play a supremely difficult schedule outside of Q and Dan and Bomber. So, it's tough, but Doink has the playoff experience that Monty doesn't. Doink's been here before. Doink has shown that he can win a game in the playoffs at least. And I just don't think Monty will have what it takes. Looking at his numbers too, he's actually been way better on defense than I realized. But I still don't think that it's gonna matter here. I think Doink comes out with this one. I think it's gonna be tight, but I do think it goes to the NFC East, and the NFC South is out here in the divisional round.
Picking against the division rival, I do respect that. Nice and a little King Petty there. I don't know. I'm having a hard time picking against Monty in this one. I really am. He hasn't played a tough schedule. He did get that week 2 win against Prime, and then he kind of lost the rest of his big games. He then gets Grams in the first round, which, we all love Grams, but we haven't seen Grams in the SML playoffs for quite a while. So a really nice first round kind of cakewalk matchup, although Paulie's the same in the SML playoffs. I don't know. I think the styles just favor Monty a little bit. I think the teams do as well. The Panthers are fast. The Panthers can stick with Doink's offense is what concerns me. It's that, he wants to run the ball. Well, Monty uses the run decently well, and at this point, especially compared to where he started in the SML. And he's got Brian Burns, he's got Eder Gross-Matos, he's got Derek Brown. This is a team that can bottle up the run. This is a team that can definitely get at the quarterback, and it's the passing game for Doink that terrifies me. Sam Howell, regardless of what he says, is not it. And this is a guy who, when he gets in trouble, just likes to, huck up the balls to. Well, he doesn't have a Mike Evans anymore, so it's what, Jahan Dotson that he hooks him up to, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's just hucking to Dotson, and you're not going to get that on the Panthers secondary. Chin's back there, Dante Jackson's back there, J.C. Horn. There's just too much talent. And Doink's offense just really hasn't been that good this season. I don't see Gibson having a huge day that kind of keeps him in this thing. It's really just going to come down to, is Monty going to make mistakes on offense? If he does, Doink can absolutely get this win because, that defensive line can punish you. He gets a user, throw out a sack to a pick. And Monty does have a tendency to melt down in the middle of a game. It took 2 plays, and he was already complaining against Grams, and then he won by 1,000. So it's going to come down to ball security in this one. I think Monty has the edge in my mind, so I'm going to take him. It will be fun to watch, but I think Monty is the one who gets this. So we'll have a slightly different NFC Championship game here, but we'll start in the AFC. Right now, as you guys have it, it's me versus Prime. So let's hear it. Do I get the third one against him, or does he get me in the playoffs again?
Yeah, this is one of those tricky ones because you did beat him both times this year, correct?
I did. Yep. He swept me
Yes,
last year. So far, I have swept him this year.
Yeah, and those are always the hard ones. I hate the ones where you beat the guy twice in the regular season and you got to beat him again and do it again, because
Yep.
it's always the hardest time to do it 3 straight times. Obviously, this is going to be the biggest stage because the winner does go to the Super Bowl. Prime would have number 20. You would have, what, number 5? Number
6.
4?
6.
6.
Yeah.
Jordan. So, you're closing in as, I think you would even put yourself or cement yourself as maybe the second most rings at that point. So I would say that, it's hard to go against my Thanos. I'm going to have to say that you do pull away. In another one, I think it's going to be close. I think this is actually going to be a little bit more high scoring because you guys do know each other. I know typically that means a little bit more lower scoring, but you guys happen to know each other's holes. You guys both have real explosive players on the side of the ball, on offensive side.
Uh-oh, do we lose him?
Typical Q fashion.
Yeah,
Sounds like it.
I think in typical Q fashion, we have lost our boy. This might be a first and goal episode now too. We're just gonna sum up all of the SML Network shows in one here.
Well, let me just pick up where he left off because this man dropped it right after he said, "You guys know each other's holes," which Q, my boy, phrasing.
Cut off?
Oh, he's back. He's back.
There you
did
go.
cut off.
Okay.
I thought, man, I was going in a whole spiel. I didn't know I cut off.
Oh,
You
man.
cut off saying that Prime and Foz know each other's holes. Pick it up from there.
Okay. Well, they probably do know each other's holes. Who knows what happened in the Tennessee meetup? But I do think Faz comes away 34-31 or 34-28. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think that there's going to be a lot of explosive plays early on, and then they kind of settle in.
All right. I am shocking picking Foz in this game as well. I have to go with the man who's playing the best football in the conference right now. I'm gonna say though it's gonna be a very low scoring game. I'm gonna say a 16-13 last second iced kick for the win. I can't go against anything Q said except for the whole statement because I don't stand by that. I will say though, like I'm gonna just take the other end. So I agree with you completely, Q, that they know themselves, they know their game plans, they know both players know what each other wants to do, and they're gonna be so good at taking like. No one's going to be able to do anything kind of thing. It's just going to be, grind it, boring offensive games, great defense happening. And then, I think Prime is going to get a last second turnover on, under a minute left in a tie game. That's going to leave Foz in like, I'm going to say about the 40-yard line. We're going to be really specific here. You're going to get it on your own 40. In typical Foz fashion, you're going to go down and get in field goal range in 1, maybe 2 plays, and then you're going to kick the game-winning field goal as time runs out. I can definitely see Prime winning this, but I don't have a good feeling for him. I think he's going to continue to succumb to the pressure that is Foz.
Well, I certainly hope it goes that way. Both games have been incredibly close this season. They've been battles. I think they were both one-score games, and I think both of them were on final drives, if I remember correctly. So it's going to be fun. It always is. Hopefully it doesn't come down to which team can run the ball better, because that's not going to be me. But we will see what happens. So NFC Championship game, Clink, you have Q versus Doink. I have Q versus Monty. I'm curious to see if either of us think Q can lose to either of those two teams.
No, you kind of said it in the divisional round. The Dan Q matchup is what should be the NFC Championship game. Not saying that Doink, or if Monty makes it, I'm not saying either of them can't put up a fight. Obviously, Doink did have that win over Q earlier this year. I think it goes much different this time. Q is still kind of toying with some stuff. It seems like he's kind of figured it out recently. Q's just, to me, Q's the better player, and having him kind of control it in the playoffs. Like I kind of said with Doink too, he's been there before. Well, Q's been here before. Q's won the big game. Q's won the next game too after the conference championship. He knows how to stay calm under pressure. I don't know that Doink can. Doink's kind of with the rest of us next tier, 2 tiers down, that can't quite get over that hump yet. You get 1 or 2 big playoff wins and then drop the biggest one to a top 5 guys, or big 5 guys, we'll call it. And like I said before, Q's offense is just so powerful. I mean, he can slow it down with the run, like you were saying, but he can also throw at will pretty much against anyone. And I don't think either defense is set up to be able to stop that type of attack that Q will hit him with.
Yeah. I don't see Q losing to either of them. I will say that even though I think Monty beats Doink, I think that Doink stands a better chance against Q. I think Monty stands no chance. I will be bold on that on this show. I will risk sounding like a moron. I think if Monty and Q match up, I think it's just right it in pen. Q moves on. I don't think Monty has the defense at all. He's too aggressive with his user, which can make big plays, as we saw against guys like Grams. Q is not going to give you that opportunity. Just simply not going to happen. I think Monty's going to take himself out of position more often than anything else against Q, and that game gets pretty ugly. If it's Doink, I think the game can be a lot closer because Doink has the defensive personnel that really can't be matched. Those edge rushers, he talked about it when we were talking about Matt's team. Sometimes EA just, that coin flip happens and there's no blocking those guys. If that happens, it's going to be tough to beat any team that has Chase Young and Montez Sweat, regardless of who's using them. So I think Doink can keep it a little closer, but regardless, Q is just too high-powered. He plays defense well. He runs the ball well. He passes the ball well. He's the most complete team in the SML right now, in my mind. So I would be shocked if we don't see him, winning that game. Curious to see what would happen if Dan wins the divisional round, but I guess we'll just have to find out in a couple days here. That would set up a big shock here. Full Thanos Club Super Bowl. Me versus Q for what feels like the 7th time. We'll have everybody pick. We'll start with Q, go to Fins, then Clank, and wrap up with me. Or maybe not.
We'll start with Fins.
Yeah, we'll start with Fins just in case. He's here. He lives.
Go ahead.
I was
buddy,
on mute. Yeah, I had it muted. Sorry. I was talking while I was muted. I am gonna actually have to, for once in my life, give myself the nod. I always give Faz the nod on these games. You do have my number historically, especially in the Super Bowl. We know that I think you got me 3 straight times, and it does feel like this is the 40th time we've met in the Super Bowl. If I do happen to get there and everything goes right by the panel's picks, I think, I don't know, I haven't looked a lot at your roster, but I think your secondary might not be ready if DeAndre Hopkins decides to play well and Rondale Moore decides to play well. Obviously, you've seen a ton of my games. You know what I like to do. We talk during my games, and I tell you, look, I'm going to try this pass, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So you really know everything I want to do and how I like to play. But I want to just give my own overall team, just the ratings of my team, the nod for this game.
I am going to concur with you, actually. I think Q is just playing so well on both sides of the ball right now, in all facets of the game, actually. We already talked about how good his run game has been. He can pass, he can play good defense. That team is solid. I think this is just like, to me, this season feels like the season when you were the Lions. And it was just like you were just playing so well in all phases of the game that I think it's just your destiny to get this one this time. I think it would be a close game, but I see you coming out on top.
Yeah, sorry, Foz. I was originally going to pick you. Those guys picked you. I debated switching my pick and picking you, and then I went and looked at your defense. and they have not been great this year. You're 32nd ranked in total yards and 32nd ranked in pass yards. You only give up the 12th amount of points, but you're playing an elite offense that knows how to score, both inside the red zone and from distance. I don't think your defense, as far as non-user play, is going to be there. I think you can score enough on Q to keep it close, but I think at the end, Q's offensive firepower versus your still growing defense is going to be the difference. And I got Q coming out with a victory here.
Yeah, it's a tough day to be me here. 0 for 3 on the picks. And we're making it 0 for 4, actually, because I have to agree with you guys. And it's not the secondary that I think is going to kill me. Those guys are solid enough. Shaq, 94 speed. Tyson, 92 speed, I believe. 93 and 91 speed in the safety spots. They can keep up for sure. The problem is that this season, I don't know what happened, but I have generated no pass rush. I think Trayvon Walker leads my team with 5.5 sacks, which is a pitiful number. So I'm just not getting to the quarterback regardless of who I play. We slumped big time in the middle of the season there. I had those back-to-back losses, Clink to you and Bean, where I couldn't get to the quarterback. Burrow and Shelley were just standing there as long as they wanted, just slinging the rock. So a couple forced losses that certainly did not help the defensive numbers either. And really not much has changed. Allen has not been nearly as dominant as he was in season 1. Trayvon, I was moving around a little bit, which kind of hurt his numbers. But yeah, I just think that Kyler is going to have too much time to sit there and throw deep to Rondell. And, my secondary's fast, but they're not that fast. If Kyler is going to have all day to sit there and throw the ball, I'm going to be in a bad spot. And that pretty much goes for anybody who plays the Cardinals, but I think it is what does me in if this is a matchup that happens. So I have to make it 0 for 4. Feels bad. Jags, we just might not be there just yet. We are feeling better as we go. But yeah, so it sounds like we've all got a Q Super Bowl win here. It'll be fun to watch regardless. The SML playoffs are always a great time. Resuming tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. This should be up by then. But yeah, we're going to wrap things up with our folding chair scale. Obviously, if you're not remembering what this is, just ranking remaining members 0 to 10, with 10 being the most, 0 being the least, on just the amount of pressure they have to either win their next game, win a Simbardi, what have you, inspired by our good friend Meats, as always. So we'll start with the lowest seed, and so that's the AFC. We got Matt, reigning Simbardi champ. Q, start us out. Folding chair scale 0 to 10. What's Matt's pressure looking like?
Yeah, I gotta say Matt's pressure is a 0.1, if that was such a thing. I'll just give him a 1 out of 10. He's the reigning Super Bowl champ. He already did what everybody assumed he probably couldn't do, and he's not playing with house money. He's playing you, and you're the first seed. You're one of the greats in this league. I would give Matt a 1.
Vince?
Yeah, I'm gonna go even lower. I'm gonna go 0. I think he's, he can, even if he gets blown out against you, he can, cry himself to sleep while holding his Simbardi trophy. Like and Matt never puts any pressure on himself anyway. Like we all know Matt's narrative, how he's not good and all those kinds of things. We know that's obviously not true now. He still spins it like it's his team, but he's definitely an incredible player. But sorry, that's my wife.
What a ringtone.
I know, she's so rude. He has no pressure on whatsoever. I'm going to say 0.
Yeah. Clink?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with those guys. I had him at a 2 originally. I'm going to keep it at a 2 just because, you always want to repeat a little bit. You want to prove that you're here to stay, continue the success. But it's very low for Matt. He already did what a lot of people thought was never going to happen again. Maybe not never, but rarely ever going to happen again. He's the one who broke through and stole a Simbardi from the rest of the Big Five. So I got him low. I got him at a 2.
Yeah, we are all in agreement here that it's very low. I'm at half of a folding chair. The only reason is because he probably doesn't even care, but you generally want to win a few with a team like that before, the guys like Mac start to regress. but realistically, he's Matt. He couldn't care less. He probably has a sign on his Simbardi that says "You're still not good." So he's he's a 0.5. He doesn't care. He's got his Simbardi. He did it while beating like 4 Big 5 members in a row. So he literally, nobody can even say like, oh, but you didn't even play good competition for your trophy. Like, no, he played the best competition there was. He won. He's at a 0.5, and he doesn't care as it is. So, yeah, pretty much as low as it gets. So sticking in the AFC, we've got Prime is the next lowest seed, actually. So what do we think? Prime, same order.
I'm going to give him actually a 10. I know. Actually, no. I'm going to lighten it. I won't be too dramatic. I'll give him a 9. So that 9 is because obviously he went off last year on his rants about number 20 and how this was the most dialed in he's ever been. And obviously we saw the results. I think that he was a lot less vocal about his greatness this year. He talked here and there like we expect, but he wasn't so vocal. He wasn't, so boisterous about it. I think that we have a high folding chair number just simply because he's chasing number 20. Now, obviously, if you compare him to everybody else, probably be number 1 or probably at a 1 just because he does have 19 Simbardis. But because he's chasing that elusive 20, because we all, expect it in a way this cycle for sure, I'd put him at a 9.
Yeah, I'm going to be dramatic and I'm going to say it's 11. And it's simply because, like you said, the narrative he puts on himself. Like we heard ad nauseum last year of how he, Foz regrets taking the Jaguars. I'm going to beat them all psycho, blah, 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 blah. And then, we turn around and Foz has flipped that script. We all have him, well, you and I have him beating Prime this time. So he simply needs to, kind of keep up with that narrative that he is, the most dominant player in the division. And so there's an immense amount of pressure on him. And plus, just like you said, chasing number 20 makes it all the more full of chairs, whatever that linguistic
all
you
the
use.
more full of chairs.
All the more full of chairs.
That is a heck of a statement.
That's a teacher right there, boys. Yeah, we're going 11.
Yeah, I got Prime at a 9. I think the rest of the conference is catching up with him skill wise. It's only a matter of time before Bombers' young Jets become a power to be reckoned with. He's got the defense down pretty well. Once he figures out the offense, he's going to be power. Obviously, Foz. Your team's only going to get better as we progress on here. Another stellar season from Trevor Lawrence. And if I'm not mistaken, Prime did say that you would never win a division, and here you are, season 2, winning a division.
He did say that.
So, the pressure's on really heavy now to back up those words in a different way and make sure you never make it out of the conference into a Super Bowl. I don't think that he'll be able to, but puts pressure on him very heavily, because for you to win the division and make a Super Bowl in the same year would be kind of damning to what he said preseason and I believe in season 1 here. So yeah, I got him at a 9.
Yeah, I have him at a 10. The only reason that it's not higher than that is because I think last season I had him at a 15 because of how much he talked. He has dialed back on the talk, so we can't really hold that against him. He was basically guaranteeing a perfect season halfway through season 1. So it's lower than that, but it's still a 10. And that's basically because he and I are pretty much in the race for the next Simbardi. He did say that I would not win a division title. He missed on that one. He also said that I would not win a Super Bowl if I joined him in the AFC South. So basically now, not only does he have to keep me from winning, but if I were to win one before him, it would be truly devastating. So I think that's going to keep the number pretty high until one of us ends up coming away with one of these things, and that number will come down. But for now, he's at a 10. We got QB up next. What are we thinking about QB's pressure scale?
I'm going to keep it dramatic. I think that you're going to see a pattern here for me this time. We usually give out 4, 5, 6s. I'm going to keep it up higher, and I'm going to give QB about a 8.5. The reason for that is because we all know historically QB does have, I think, 3 Simbardis. He had a pretty dominant run when he was in here at one point in time, and we haven't seen him kind of get back to that since. We thought we were going to see possibly at one point in time, I think Matt called him the best player in the SML at one point last year in season 1. And so I think that he's at an 8.5. He has to prove that he can get over the hump versus Prime. I don't talk about Madden 16, 17, and 18. I wasn't around for that when he was beating him in the playoffs, so I got to see it now. We do have to see QB back to kind of that big, I don't know, big 7 stage. I don't know. I'm just making shit up now. But he has that history of being a champion, so he has to bring that back. He has to become feared again. Like, I don't think when you play QB in the playoffs, I don't speak for that because I'm not in the AFC, but Prime doesn't fear QB, I don't think. I think he would probably rather play QB than a guy like Bomber who already got exited in the first round. So I think QB has to instill that fear again. I got him at an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go around the same. I'm going to say 8. And, like QB likes, for a while he had, undefeated season. He liked to talk about his accolades. And I think that he is a guy, as much as he says he doesn't care about this stuff, I think he does. He wants to be mentioned in that conversation. So I think there's pressure on him to achieve that. And I think he's going to feel that in his game. I think Q is right on the money there. I never thought of it that way, but I think you're completely correct when you say that Prime doesn't fear him. Because I think Prime has a really good record overall against QB, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think he would much rather play a guy like QB than he would Bomber or Foz or even Matt. So yeah, I think 8. I have about an 8.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay up in that range. I'm gonna give him a 7. I do think it's a little bit lower. I'm not gonna go too dramatic. QB looks to be like he's finally getting back into a stride where he's a solid player. And now, he's got an opportunity to prove that he can take that next step, that when he was winning championships back in the day, it wasn't just a fluke, that he is a guy who should be mentioned with some of these top tier guys. All of us obviously want to be that or take that next step to get there. And this is kind of an opportunity for him, especially facing up against Prime. So I got him at a 7. I think because he's playing Prime, it brings it down that 1-2 notches for me. Just because Prime's got the recent success as far as, since I've been here, which QB has not been here during that time. But I do think it brings it down at just a touch.
Man, I am like way off with you guys. I'm at like a 4. Yeah, I'm low with QB. This is a guy who really just doesn't like competition. He takes this very seriously for sure. But he really just doesn't like competition. We've seen that. The SML has gotten better since he was here and winning. I just don't see him kind of having the guns to beat a Prime, to beat me. He got just absolutely slaughterhoused by Bomber last season. See, I don't know. We've seen him beat up on some bad teams in a pretty bad division. Doesn't do super great against Matt. I think playing against Prime, it's probably definitely a loss here. I'd be surprised if he won that one. So I just don't see too much of a pressure for him to kind of run through the table and beat guys, me, Prime, Dan, Q. I just don't see that on the table for him. So last AFC team then is me. What are we thinking?
I am getting a little bit less than the other guys because you are the Jaguars. So I'm going to give you probably a 7. Actually, no, I'm going to go with a 6 just because you have had a lot of recent success before this cycle started, especially with your Super Bowl run that you were ending in the last Madden. I'll give you a 6 because your team, in my opinion, if you do reach the Super Bowl this year, it would actually be an achievement. As great as you are and as talented as you are, I think that your Jags team is still getting better, and I think they still they haven't even come close to untapping the potential of the entire team. So I'll give you a 6 because if you do keep it going and if you beat Prime and advance, then You did it because of your scale and because of a few guys, not because of your overall well-rounded team.
Yeah, I'm gonna go about a 5, maybe even a 4.5. 4.5 chairs. I'm not spoiler alert, I'm not gonna give any other ones besides Prime, because none of the multiple Simbardi members that are left talk as much as Prime, so they don't have that pressure. So I mean, you've got 5 Simbardis already. You won the division. You handled everybody handily. For the most part, I know you had that little blip there, but that happens to the best of us. So I don't see any pressure on you to repeat. I mean, maybe there's a little bit against Prime just because that game is the marquee game in the AFC that we all want to see. But yeah, 4.5 chairs.
Yeah, I'm way off. I got you at, I'm going to go with an 8.9, just a tad under what I got Prime at. I do think that there's, anytime you're talked about in the breadth that you are of being great, there's always going to be a lot of pressure on you. There's pressure on you to get the first one before Prime, to kind of be able to talk a lot of crap. Not that you talk a lot of crap, but, be able to if you wanted to. And I don't know. I just think that, being able to get that first one here is always a big deal for the cycle, and being able to get it as the first Big Five member is always going to have pressure on you until that kind of Big Five or Prime, especially, wins one before you.
Yeah, I have to agree with Clink on this one. I had Prime at a 10, so I put myself at a 9. I think Prime has a little more because he's the one who has talked and said everything, but at the end of the day, like, I want him to be wrong. I don't want Prime to be right. And I definitely I definitely want to win it before he gets his. At the end of the day, I think it would be a surprise if we went through a full cycle and, Prime or I were held off the Simbardi score sheet. It could certainly happen, but I think it would be a surprise. So at the end of the day, I just want to get mine before him. And that's the big pressure here. Not necessarily the winning it of itself, but I do want to get it before he gets his, just to hold that over him. Maybe make a video, something fun like that, just as a little reminder. So going to the NFC side, again, starting with the lower seed, that's actually Q. Q, you feel any pressure here?
So I'm going to keep it. I do feel pressure, of course. I always feel pressure because I want to win at all times. So for the divisional wild card NFC championship, believe it or not, I'm going to give myself about a 5. Outside of my one vacation, I'm on like a 6 straight or 5 straight runs to the Super Bowl. Whether I've won or not, that's the different question. But getting to the Super Bowl, there's not a lot of pressure. I would say that if I do happen to be correct, or if the panel is correct and I do make the Super Bowl this year, it does rise to a 10. I'm like 0 for my last 4 in Super Bowls, and it's kind of getting stale. I'm kind of becoming that guy that can get there, not relatively easy, but it's becoming a little more consistent of me making it, and then I fold in the Super Bowl. So if I get to the Super Bowl, a 10. If I don't get there, I'm going to give myself about a 5, maybe a 6.5.
I'm gonna say for you, I'm gonna put you at about 6.75 folding chairs, and I'm gonna put it for. I'm gonna give you 2 scales. I'm gonna say 6.75 for, if you if and when you face Dan, because there's a little bit of, like, your last couple of games have been a little bit tension filled with just the way the game's kind of gone. So I think there's a little bit of pressure because, you both kind of jaw at each other a little bit about, who kind of runs the division, and we know it's you, but Dan likes to put himself in that category. And then I am going to agree with you 100%. If you do make the Super Bowl, 10 there, like, you've had such an incredible season, and just to continue that, like, you would be, kind of like the Pats when they were undefeated, and then lost with the catch, right? So I think it does increase to a 10, but as of now, I'm going to say 6.75.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. Well, not really the opposite. I got Q at a 9 all the way across the board. I think the pressure's on pretty high to bring the championship home. Like you said, Q, you've been there quite a bit recently, quite a few in a row. I don't know the number, 5 or 6, whatever. And you've lost now the last what, or 3 of the last 4, and yeah, I think getting there is high pressure because you kind of got to keep that success up, and then once you get there, you gotta bring it home. Especially with that Cardinals team, kind of like I said with other people. The conference starts to catch up to you eventually with talent wise. You had a good advantage as far as the speed side goes, but we've seen that can change very quickly with these drafts, and so I think. People are going to start catching up in the conference. Not sure any of us are going to be able to beat you, but we'll be able to give you a tougher run for your money here coming up in the next couple seasons. So I think this is kind of the year you got to put it home.
I have Q at a tad lower number. I have him at an 8. All valid points. There's always pressure when you're favored, which I believe you are. And the big 5 guys will always have pretty heavy pressure numbers on them, just because we're expected to win. The thing with Q's team is that it's younger than a lot of these other NFC squads. This is still a pretty young team. A lot of really the core important players are young. Whereas I think Dan's team is more there right now. So I think that Q is going to have kind of a longer window to get his. It's only a matter of time before he does get it. So I think that kind of keeps the pressure just a little bit lower than that, that 9-10. I don't think that pressure to win now is necessarily there, even though losing Super Bowls sucks and you've now lost a couple of them in a row. So I know that's miserable from a personal perspective. But I think in the overall kind of grand scheme of things, I don't think it's quite as high as you might put on yourself. So I've got you on an 8, maybe a 7, but I'll stick with 8 just because we all have you favored to win this one. So technically Gouda is still alive, even though we kind of all wrote him off. Sorry about that, bud. We'll put him on the scale here. So Gouda, the 4 seed, folding chair scale. What do we think?
First, how insane would it be if he just completely destroys this entire?
Is he skipping all over the place for anybody else or just me?
Yes. No,
okay.
He's skipping all over.
Yeah, so we've got the...
It was worse than that even.
Yeah, the old prime hamster wheel internet back for that one. So we're still skipping. We'll let you go last as I stutter over myself more than he is right now.
Jet comes out of the NFC. I'm gonna keep Gouda's scale down pretty low. You hear me? Am I heard well?
Yep.
Yeah,
Am I
heard
breaking
well.
up? Hello.
You're heard well.
Just go ahead and skip me. Just skip me. 3,
Perfect.
2.
Said it better.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Gouda I'm gonna put him at like a 4. I think he's gonna put pressure on himself to beat Q. It's his brother. We all want that sibling rivalry, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think Gouda's quite there yet to be able to compete with Q and Dan consistently. So I think just the pressure, just simply who he's playing. Had he been playing anybody else in the NFC, I would have given him like Matt's score and given him nothing. But because it's Q, I just a little bit of pressure there for him. But I still got him at low at a 4.
Yeah, so I'm the opposite of Finn's. If he was playing anybody else, I'd put a little bit higher. But because he's playing Q, because he's not really expected to win, I got him right around a 3. I think he, he's playing. He's proven a lot of people wrong how he's come out this season. He took Malik Willis and made him usable. He had a winning season with them. And everybody said it was. I still don't think it was a great trade, but it wasn't awful if he can keep playing pretty solid with them. His defense is fantastic, so he has a chance. But nobody's kind of expecting him to win. So he's playing with house money. If he was playing Doink or Monty or anybody other than Dan, pretty much, I'd have him a little bit higher to go win that game and prove that he belongs in these playoffs. But because it's Q, I got him a little bit lower as far as, nobody expects him to win this one.
Yeah, I have to agree with everybody else. I think he's at like a 2. Yeah, I mean, basically, I almost didn't even list him on here because I kind of forgot that he was still alive. So I do greatly apologize for that. But yeah, I think he's a 2. Yeah, that's a bummer. But yeah, I got him at a 2. He'll definitely put pressure on himself just because, I mean, I have younger brothers. They think they can win. So like I know that's going through his mind. Q is gone. Maybe we'll see him again. Q is dead. But yeah, I know he thinks he can win. He's definitely hyping himself up. He's at work right now, running through walls. I'm ready to go. Realistically though, it's going to be an uphill climb, I think, and so it's pretty low. So we're gonna go next up. We've got Monty, the 3 seed, and since Q is no service, Finns, you can start us.
Yeah, Monty. I'm struggling with his full show rating because I'm not sure Monty feels pressure because, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. I'm gonna give Monty 5.5. I don't think there's a lot of pressure on Monty. Monty's in that category, similar to Gutta in the fact that I don't think he's ready to compete with the big boys quite yet. We established that he hadn't really played anybody outside of Prime. And I don't really feel like he puts pressure on himself. I think, he is, the SML Patrick from SpongeBob, just going about my merry way. Like, I'm here, guys. So I don't have a lot of pressure for him. I'm going to give him a 5.5.
Yeah, I got him sitting at a 5 for similar reasons. I don't think anybody expects Monty to make a Super Bowl run, and I don't think the pressure's really on him to prove everybody different or everybody wrong. I don't think he's not a talented player. I think he has plenty of talent on his team, on his sticks. I just think it's kind of that first run this cycle for him. To me, again, he's kind of similar to me, where it's just like, you're happy to be there. You hope to win a few and see what you can do, try to make some noise. But I don't think he's that too much pressure on him. There's no pressure to win a Super Bowl. I think against Doink, it's a little bit higher just because you got that kind of superiority in the what are they called? The primer posse. There you go. That you kind of want to prove that you're the best one in that group, make it the furthest out of everyone. But outside of that, I don't see much pressure for him.
Yeah, I'm giving Monty 2 numbers because I think it's a 7 to beat Doink, and I think after that it goes directly to a 1. He's like, we've brought it up, the schedule has been soft. He played Grams in round 1, so everybody's kind of discounting the playoff win. I think he would like to get one that we can look at and be like, yeah, that's a very legitimate win. That was a great win. He can do that against Doink. I think that would be an impressive win. And a run at the NFC Championship game is no joke, regardless of who you play. So I think that would, kind of really constitute a very successful season for Monty. And then if he gets there, he's playing Q or Dan, and if he wins that, chances are high he would have to play me or Prime for the title. At that point, you're at a 1. I don't think anybody expects him to win all those games, but I do think he's got a little bit to beat Doink and at least get there, have something to hang your hat on, and build on for future seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So then, kind of in a similar breath, we got Doink. Finns, what do we think with Doink?
I'm going to put Doink at about a 6. I think Doink, kind of similar to QB. I think Doink really wants to be kind of put in that upper echelon of players. But I don't think he's quite there yet either. Like his quarterback situation, as you mentioned, is definitely not the answer. He kind of lost. He got rid of Payne. I know he really justifies that move, but I think we all agree that wasn't the best idea. But I think he puts a lot of pressure on himself to be mentioned in some of the best players in the league, and so I think he puts that on himself. But again, none of us here expect him to go far, so I'm going to put him at a 6.
Yeah, I got him at a 7. Similar to what Finn said. I mean, he's not in that same breath of the big dog, so I can't put him too high because we don't expect him to win a Super Bowl. I think he's higher against Monty because again, he's got to prove that he's better than that middle of the pack group. You know, kind of towards the top of that middle of the pack group, and this is kind of a chance for him to do that. But I do think that he, nobody really expects him, but he wants it. So I think that pressure automatically goes up because he wants to get pushed into that upper echelon. He wants to, kind of how Bomber and you talk about me whenever you guys do these in the playoffs, that I want to be mentioned in that greatness. I think he's right there and that he wants to. So it's got to push it up a little bit for the folding chairs. That he's got to go out there and prove it now. He had a successful regular season and win the games you're supposed to and get a chance in a NFC Championship game against either Q or Dan.
Yeah, I'm doing a similar thing here where I'm going to give him 2 numbers. This isn't the same as Monty, but I think it's league-wide pressure and then the pressure he puts on himself. I think league-wide it's like 5. Realistically, I don't think anybody looks at him, especially with this, Commanders offense, and expects him to run through the NFC and win a title. But as far as himself, you guys hit the nail on the head. This is somebody who really wants to be talked about with, the big guns. He likes to bring up all of his kind of accomplishments at times. So I think this is a guy who, really does want to be in that grouping. He wants to go and win. Obviously, we all want to win, but I think he wants it just that tad bit extra more. So I think the pressure he puts on himself is an 8. He really feels he can play with anybody. He played in this division with me and Dan last cycle, and always felt he was right there with us. He did make the one run to the NFC Championship game. So yeah, I think Doink is puts himself in an 8. I think league wide probably a 5. And then we'll wrap things up with maybe the most intriguing name on the list, Dan Hertzler. Dan Heat 22, the 1 seed in the NFC. Niners. Finns, what do we think?
Yeah, I don't see how he can't be double digits. I'm just going to go with 10, though. I think that, it's been a while for him where I know he hasn't won one in a while, but he hasn't even sniffed a bowl in quite a long time. And
he had a pretty rough time getting out of the NFC last cycle. What can I say?
He sure did, with the unstoppable force that is Thanos himself. So I think, there's a lot of pressure, and, he this cycle he's got Q, who is just, I know he finally got over the hump. But, a little bit of controversy the way that happened, I guess you'd say.
He snuck it in there,
Yeah, he snuck by Q. Yeah, we can just say that. He snuck by him. So I think, there's a lot of pressure on him to kind of beat Q. Q has beat him down so far. So there's tons of pressure to kind of get over that hump, because right now the narrative is not, fat fingered or, greatest winning percentage in regular season. It's that he can't get past the Thanos Club. So I'm going to put him at a 10.
Yeah, in honor of Q, since he dropped off, he threw in our little chat that he wanted him at a 15. So I'm going to throw Dan at a 15. I think Dan has a ton of pressure on him to win and win now, especially with that Niners team. Faz, you kind of touched on it earlier, that they're set up to win now. He didn't make it last year. Q's team's only getting better even without Isaiah Simmons. So I think the time is now for Dan. He hasn't won one since the Atlanta Falcons in season 1 of the reboot last cycle, and outside of that, he has none in the SML. And he's talked about in the same breath as a lot of guys who have won more, obviously.
Well, he has 2 in Madden 21, unless you mean over the last 2 cycles. Unless you mean over the last 2 cycles. But he got 2 with the Broncos.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
okay,
did he get 2?
Fair.
He beat me.
I wasn't here yet.
He beat me, and then he fat-fingered Dookie, so he should have won that one. And he lost to RD with the Rams, so he might... Does he only have 2? Am I forgetting one?
I don't know. But okay, that makes it a little bit better. But so he's got one each cycle. I think it's going to be tougher and tougher as this one pushes on to get that one this cycle against Q, especially, and the fact that he keeps chasing you big dogs into divisions, which I respect a lot, but it constantly will set up for second round matchups between the two of them. And so I think it just reduces the chances for somebody else to knock off Q in a kind of Cinderella fashion. Yeah, so I got him high. I think it's not now or never, but he's got to win one now. I think that pressure, that folding chair meter's going through the charts right now.
Yeah, I have him at the highest in the league. I previously had Prime as the highest at 10. I'm throwing Dan with a 12. Obviously, we got the honorable, the write-in vote from Q. He wanted them at a 15. Wanted to make sure that Dan knew that. But I've got Dan at the 12. I think the only reason it's not a 15 is because we all kind of have Q as favored. But yeah, Dan is tough go last season with me in his division, or last cycle with me in his division. Same thing with Q. You really don't want that to happen twice in a row where you have one guy you just can't get past. That would be, especially for somebody with, kind of Dan's, I don't want to say ego. I feel like ego is cruel. But I think ego is probably the closest way to put it. So I'll go with it. But I think it would really kind of hurt Dan if he really struggles getting past Q this cycle after he struggled last cycle with the same thing. This cycle, he does not have the Falcons excuse that he had last one. So I do think he's got to go out there and get there and win. And he certainly can. The team's good enough. He's a good enough player. I think you said he's 85% on offense and defense. So, maybe he'll get that last 15 at some point here. But yeah, I think Dan's high. So I've got him at the 12. That rounds out our folding chairs. Boys, in typical heat check fashion, this was long AF. We are just under an hour and 10 minutes.
Perfect.
We didn't even have the entire first round to do. So well done. We stuck with tradition. Anything else to say before we sign this thing off?
Great episode. Thanks for putting it together, and best of luck to you and Q in the playoffs and everybody else. See you next year.
Yeah, man, it was a pleasure being on here. Thanks for getting us on, and let's say good luck to everybody that's still playing.
Yeah, of course. Very happy to have you both. Finns, I respect you. Clink, you too.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, anytime. Until then, we will see you guys next time. Good luck in the playoffs. And we'll see you at 9 Eastern tonight for the Brother Bowl, Vikings, Cardinals.